Hi everyone, it's Venetia here from Oberlo. I'm here with Karolis Rumkus, one of our standout store owners, and today we're going to pick his brains about some of the strategies he used to build his business. This video is going to be full of specific tips and advice that you can implement into your store today, so keep watching. So Karolis has just returned home after an 8-month adventure around the world with his wife, where he visited something like 13 countries.
Yep.
So how did you make that happen?
Well, I got a text from my wife that we need to talk, and I thought that's not gonna end well.
Yeah.
And so we talked. She actually told me that she wants to travel, and I loved traveling for all my life, but we haven't had a trip as big as this one.
Yeah.
And so we needed to prepare for it, both mentally and financially. And so I was like twisting my head on what could I do to help myself to provide for us during our trip.
Yeah.
And so I tried a lot of things, and one of them was dropshipping.
Okay, so how did you actually hear about dropshipping in the first place?
As a concept, actually, well, I've seen people sell things online before, but I didn't know that it was done via dropshipping. And I saw a friend just talk actually about Oberlo, and that it's a Lithuanian company, since I'm a Lithuanian. Yeah. And I don't know, I started digging in all the information I could, and yeah.
So what did you end up selling?
Well, I read a lot that people suggest you should be selling something that sells well. You should do a lot of research on the niche. But what I thought is I wanted to make it fun for me, and I wanted to do something that I really know a lot about. Yeah. And since I'm an avid runner, I think I do know a lot about running gear, running clothing. Yeah. And so that's the niche I took on.
Okay, very cool. I do talk to a lot of merchants actually who find that focusing on a niche for them that they are really interested in kind of helps them stay motivated and pushes through, and it helps them know the target audience that they're working with more.
Oh, exactly. That's absolutely right, because it was very hard to concentrate on other like endeavors I was trying because they were not a thing I'd love to be doing. And since my background is in marketing and my hobby background is in running, yeah. So I kind of combined these two things together, and so it wasn't that much of a work, and it was easy to take on weekends and on the evenings and even on lunch breaks, yeah. Because it was fun.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's a great approach. So when it came to marketing strategies, what did you choose to focus on the most?
I focused mostly on Instagram because that's a social media platform that I knew well. And I actually even started doing Instagram marketing, kind of building a community way before I launched the store. So I used it to, build a community and validate some of the products.
So how did you go about actually validating your products on Instagram? Okay,
so I did that with product pictures, which I took from the supplier. Yeah. So what was kind of problematic is that I had no control of the picture quality, and some pictures were good, some were not as good, and I had to use them both. And so I wasn't sure if the products sometimes were good, or if the engagement with the pictures was good because of the quality of the pictures. So right. What I would do differently now is I would ship the products to myself and make the content on my end, and so that I could know that every picture is kind of in the same line, yeah. Has the same color scheme, is done in a similar way, or I could be sending them to someone I would find on Fiverr.com or Upwork, yeah. Where you can outsource the work to people who know how to do that job probably better than I would, yeah. And who could make the content.
Yeah, I think that's a great approach as well, because not everyone has the ability to kind of have the equipment that you need to produce high quality photos. So apart from the product photos that you were posting on your Instagram, what other kinds of content were you posting?
Well, so obviously I did not have the money to invest into photo shoots and models and so on. So I was doing two things apart from the products. I was using like legitimate stock images. Yeah. And I was using pictures of other runners, which I found on Instagram itself. Yeah. What I learned afterwards is that it's not really a thing you could be doing without asking people for their permission for the pictures. Yeah. So I would do it differently now. I would ask for the pictures. There is a way to ask for the images like in a legitimate way. So, because those pictures work, user-generated content works very well for engagement. It does not necessarily have to be with the products you're selling, because you want to build a community. So you could be talking about other people's experiences with running, I don't know, their thoughts, their preparations for marathons or 10Ks or whatever, and build a community not just about your products, but about the niche that you're talking.
Yep. Okay, so I want to hear a little bit more about when it went wrong. What happened when the reposting went wrong?
It didn't, well, fortunately, it didn't go wrong, but I heard stories from other people who did repost other people's content and got like cease and desist letters or yeah. Okay,
sure. And so if you were to go about reposting it and asking for permission, what would you do in that situation?
So there is this template, I don't know, maybe you could share it with the viewers.
We'll share it with you below in the comments.
There is a template you can use, which you can plant in your website, and when you want to use someone's picture from your store's Instagram profile, you can make a comment on that picture, like, we'd like to use your shot, it's an amazing shot, and if you agree with these terms, post a link, just add a hashtag, yes, I do agree, thank you, something like that. And if the person agrees and posts the hashtag, it's actually a legitimate way to use the picture without any possible consequences.
Yeah, great advice. So you're all in the clear then as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So don't worry guys, we're going to leave all of the links that Carlos is talking about in the description below. So when it comes to kind of trying to make your profile feel like it's coming from a brand, what tips do you have for doing that, building a brand on Instagram really?
Okay, so if you're doing your own content, that's going to be pretty easy. If you're doing the shots yourself, you're going to do them in a similar kind of way. Yeah. But if you want to keep them looking similar without doing the pictures themselves, you could think of, for example, filters. You can apply filters that the pictures would look kind of the same, and so your feed would look neat and tidy. But don't overthink it too much, because I've seen a lot of brands put a lot of effort so that their feed would look good. Yeah. They even do these grid lines, you know, where they take a picture and they slice it out up to 9 images. Yeah. But think of it from someone who's already following perspective. So they're getting these irrelevant images of
a small little section of an image in their newsfeed.
Exactly. So just think of single images. Like every post should be good.
Yep.
And that's it. That's the most important part. You don't have to think about all the posts, how are they going to relate to each other. Think of a few communication lines, but that should be only in your head. Yep. Because people are not going to care that you have a communication line for like, I don't know, inspirational line, then your product line, and then user-generated content line. Yep. No one's going to care because they're going to see separate posts. Maybe they're not going to see some of them. Yep. They're going to see more of, I don't know, inspirational posts, and they're going to think that your page is all inspirational posts. So don't overthink it. Think about a post per day.
So I wanted to ask you as well about kind of, you must see a lot of people who are trying to use Instagram to build their business. What is something that business owners do that drives you crazy, that you just know that they're not doing it the right way?
I've seen pages actually of some Shopify stores that just, I don't know how they do it, but they seem to have scraped all the images from their store, all the products, and they just post the products, and that's it. So you could do these, like you could be doing only sale products, like only showing your products, not user-generated content, not something that inspires people, just the product. But if you're doing it in a pushy way, it's like, look at me, I have this, I have that.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to work. You should be doing it in, once again, honest way.
Sure.
And try to engage people, and I don't know, start a conversation about the product. Like, be honest. One of the tactics I did with my page, Instagram page, I actually just asked people, new followers, I thanked them for being new followers, and asked them, like, what do you think about the store? What do you think about, for a week, I'd be asking, what do you think about this product?
Yep.
And I just gather reviews from people, And this actually turned out to be not only beneficial to me so that I knew what the products, what people thought about the products.
Yep.
But when people engage with your store, they go in, they check out, they tell you the review, they're much more likely to use the promo code you're giving them for the help afterwards.
So you would approach them and ask them for their review, and they weren't a customer yet, but they would go to the website, and then you would offer them a promo code to say thanks for the review?
Exactly.
Perfect.
Yes. I'd sometimes even give like a coupon. That's one thing I tried, kind of risked. I'd give them a coupon for say $15 or even $20 to spend on the store.
Yep.
And you could expect they would buy something for $20 and just leave. But what happened is I don't know why, maybe it's because they already engaged with the store, but usually they spent way more than what I gave them.
Yep.
And so it was, well, profitable.
Yeah, that's a really smart strategy as well. Once people have kind of already started to learn that they like the products and look into it a little bit more, I think they're much more likely to convert in the end. Okay, and so it's really hard for a lot of merchants to kind of build their following. When they're starting from zero, it can take a really long time, especially to get to that first 1,000 and 5,000 followers. What strategies did you have for building your followers?
Well, what everyone talks about is content, and content is king, as it has been always. So, well, first of all, you have to get the streamline of content going, and you got to concentrate on that and producing quite a lot of it. So I would recommend doing at least a post a day, if you're able to. And don't just stop there. Think of your profile as your business profile as yours. You know, for example, on Facebook, you can't go around with your page liking and commenting on other people's posts, but on Instagram you can. So what I did, especially at first, I was walking my dog, and I used this time to walk through other runners' pages, and just look at the pictures and engage them in a meaningful way. Sometimes just liking, sometimes commenting on what the activity was on the picture, and rarely actually talking about the product itself, just maybe congratulating someone or giving a tip or commenting on their questions they were having in the post. So don't forget to engage.
Yep.
And
so it's about giving back to people as well, not just asking them to bring stuff to your profile.
Exactly. Yeah. Think of like what would you want to see in the profile, and not what you want to tell with a profile. Don't forget that on Instagram you can actually send messages to people. So if you get new followers, why not thank them for that? Give them, I don't know, a promo code, not necessarily instantly, maybe strike a conversation. There's a lot of tactics you can use, a lot of things you can talk about.
Yeah, and that's a great approach, and as well as for kind of establishing a relationship with people if you want to use them as an influencer down the line.
Exactly,
yeah. And we'll touch on some influencer stuff a little bit later on, because I know you have some experience with that. Okay, and so I wanted to ask you a bit of a controversial question. What do you think about buying followers to grow your profile?
Oh, that's terrible.
But why?
Well, you know, I could probably think of one or two reasons in the whole world why you would want to do that, but they're kind of shady reasons. So, you know, you're gonna buy people who are not gonna engage with you at any way. So the only thing you're gaining is the amount, the big number.
Sure.
And that's not gonna help you with selling. And it actually damages the reach. And I've seen examples of that with some of my Instagram clients that I'm managing for right now, is that when they bought followers a long time ago, they're still feeling the consequences of that, which affect the reach in a tremendous way. So don't do that.
So when we're talking about content on Instagram that is kind of, I guess, less polished, one of the things that comes to mind is Instagram stories, and that's a really big thing that's exploding on the platform at the moment. Yes. Did you use Instagram stories much in your strategy when growing your business?
To be honest, at the time, no, I didn't. But I was using it with my Instagram clients that I had. So it's a very good tool. And what surprises me to this day is that a lot of people think that, well, you know, stories, they disappear in 24 hours. They're not going to work for you on the long run or something like that. But I'm noticing that a video and a story post have like very uncomparable results. You could post a video on your profile and get, for example, 1,000 views.
Yep.
And the same story would usually get 2,000 to 5,000 views.
Okay.
So it's usually even more, it's even better to post in stories
wow.
this time. Yeah.
Is there a different kind of content that you would post on stories first in your feed?
Yep. You know, like everyone's a little bit more relaxed on stories. You don't have to be so strict, don't have to think that much about your content. You can, you know, there are like drawing tools and tags and something like that, and people don't expect that much from you. So that might be enticing to try this out. And for example, with some influencers, they were not very comfortable on doing posts with the products because, well, they felt that they might be a little bit like sellouts or something like that, because a lot of micro influencers, when you approach them, you are maybe the first one who've approached them.
Yep.
And they're very weary of like how it's going to affect their audience. So what they choose to do is they do story posts with your product.
Okay.
And that is sometimes even better. Because with stories, they put like not just one story, they put 3, 4, 5. They tell a story through the stories.
Yeah.
And so that might even be more effective. And if they have more than 10,000 followers, they can add a link when you can swipe up the story. Yeah. And the link could be directing to the product in your Shopify store. So they could introduce the product, tell their experience with it, and tell you where to get it. And it's very easy, and people can do it through the app without leaving it.
Is there kind of a magic number of the amount of stories you should be posting per day?
Per day? Well, the nice thing is with stories, you know, with a feed, you can flood people. So there was a point where I was doing up to 8, 10 posts per day.
Right.
And I was starting to get comments like, your brand's feed is like very nice, but I'm getting just too much content and it's a little bit overwhelming.
Yeah.
Because if people engage, they get shown more of your content.
Right, okay.
So the hardcore fans are sometimes getting even too much. But with stories, you can post as many as you want. And you know, if someone sees that you have a lot of stories posted, they just swipe left and see someone else's story. So you're not flooding anyone.
Okay, so when it came to hashtags, did you have a hashtag strategy?
I didn't at start, I did afterwards, and there is a lot to learn about hashtags. At first I thought that hashtags are just like, I don't know, you look at the picture and you just write anything you can see in the picture.
Sure.
Or anything that's related to the picture. But there are also things you could be doing to maximize your reach and to actually help Instagram index your picture. Like, I'm pretty sure Instagram has a good AI technology and can understand that you're posting someone that is running or a dog. But if you help Instagram with the hashtags to index your picture, if it gets viral, it's gonna be more viral because of your good hashtags. And also there's this strategy which I read about a lot on the internet, and I found it kind of works, is that if you have, and most of the merchants probably do have, less than 5,000 followers, you should be doing 1/3 of your hashtags that were used up to 50,000 times, 1/3 up to 100,000, and 1/3 that are above 100,000 uses. Okay. So this kind of maximizes your chances of ranking at those hashtags. But also you shouldn't be using very broad hashtags, because think of how people would be interacting with them. So you can now follow hashtags on Instagram.
Yep.
And I have this example I like to tell people. For example, me and my wife, while we were traveling, we were at an island and we loved it. And we want to see more of it. But there's no one talking about the island, so there's no one we could follow. So we follow the island's hashtag. So think of it this way, like, are there types of activities that people in your niche are engaged with, and if they would like to follow that type of hashtag. So strategy is important.
So tell me more about using hashtags to help Instagram understand what kind of content you're posting.
Think of it in a way like metadata for the pictures. So if you're posting a dog, Instagram I think probably knows that it's a dog. It can distinguish between a dog and something else, but it might not know what breed it is, what time of the day it is, what location it is, and you can help out with hashtags. So if the algorithm decides to rank your picture better, hashtags are going to help.
I mean, I know that there are some hashtags that are kind of a little bit strange and a mashup of different words as well. Was there any way that you kind of went about finding out these niche hashtags that weren't just descriptors of the image?
Yeah, actually there's you could do it by hand. There's a lot of browsing to be done and seeing what other people use as hashtags. There's also this tool, I think it's dailypurposes.com.
Okay.
You can check it out. It helps you out with the hashtags. So you put in a broad type of hashtag, like for example, I don't know, Australian Shepherd as a dog breed. And it provides you with similar hashtags that people use. And it also ranks them by uses and by engagement with posts that have that hashtag.
Okay, so you started talking about influencers as well, and I want to go down deep onto this topic with you because it's something that's really important to a lot of merchants. It helps them get a lot of sales, and it can be something that's really cost effective as well.
Right.
So when you decided you wanted to start working with influencers, how did you first go about approaching them or finding them even?
Okay, so first of all, you kind of have to, you don't have to, but you could decide on what scale are you going to go for. So there are micro-influencers that have kind of a small following, and there are the regular influencers with a large following. The regular ones are used to getting offers from brands, and they probably get dozens of them every week. So they know their price. They are going to ask for money usually. So I took the route of micro-influencers.
What would you classify micro-influencer as?
There are different classifications online. For me, it was up to 10, maximum 15K followers. And since my target audience was in the US and Australia, they do have a lot of people with hundreds of thousands, millions even followers. So I don't know, a micro-influencer in Europe might be up to 5,000 followers. In the US, it's maybe more. So yeah, I went with the smaller ones.
And how did you go about finding these people?
First of all, I looked actually through followers hand by hand. I looked through every follower I had, and I thought maybe I'm gonna have someone who's already engaging with my brand, and it would be easier to approach them. And I found a few, and it was actually pretty easy to strike a conversation with them because they've seen content posted already. And they were a little bit familiar with the brand. So that was my first step.
Sure. So then you private messaged them, or how did you go about maintaining, like setting up that contact?
Yeah, you just message them. Usually, you know, with the micro-influencers, they don't necessarily have an email on their profile. The larger ones, they ask for you to do the conversation through email. But the smaller ones, they just use direct messages. So I would go with my page and talk to them.
So would you go to them first with an offer, or would you ask them whether they were willing to work with you first, or what was could you describe a typical interaction with them?
Okay, so I tried a few methods. There was a method where I just asked straight up, like, how can we work together? What's your price? And how can you help me? And how can I help you? And that was not the best thing I've done. What worked for me was trying to make a conversation that was like, you know, two people talking. I would say that your content is very good. I saw you participated in a half marathon a week ago. How's the recovery? And just like talk to them. And when you start talking, some of them tell you, like, go straight to the point, what you want from me. And some actually talk to you as a friend, and it's much easier to ask for something afterwards when you have a sincere conversation with them.
Okay. And so when it comes to influencers, did you go the shout out route, or did you send them product?
I sent them products. I tried shout outs. It didn't work very well, and usually when people do shout outs, they just ask for money, and I wanted to send products because, well, the perceived value of the products is higher because there's a markup which I have on Shopify. So if something costs more and people think that it costs more, they get the item for like, I don't know, $60 or something like that.
Yeah.
And it costs way less for me. And they feel better, and it works better because I usually ask them to make content when they receive the item.
Okay.
So yeah, so they make.
Do you mean
content.
it when they're unboxing it or something like that?
Yeah, I usually didn't ask for specifics, like just do anything you want, because there are a few routes you could go to. There's this route that you provide the content and ask them. Well, it's like a shout out.
Sure.
Ask them to post it, or you send the product and trust them with their creativity and with them knowing their audience, what their audience likes.
Okay.
And asking them to do something they feel comfortable with, and that was usually when it worked.
And what would you do with the content once they had produced it?
I asked them if I could repost it. Sometimes they said, yeah, okay. Sometimes they said no. Well, what matters is what they make and how their audience engages.
Can you talk about any of your experiences with influencers that went extremely well?
The tip I'd give is don't think so in a shallow way. Like at first I thought, okay, so I'm selling running clothing and what I should be targeting is running influencers.
Yep.
And I was talking to them and they are used to having sponsors, like big sponsors, even though they were micro-influencers. And so they were not very keen on talking to me, and the ones that did not perform that well. So I went ahead and contacted, like for example, there was one occasion where I had a partnership with a mother. She was just a mother, just living her life and talking about her lifestyle. And she would sometimes post pictures of herself after a run. So I knew that she had an audience of probably other mothers who might be interested in living a fit life or just taking care of themselves more. So that was a good partnership with her.
And so you talked a little bit about sometimes the influencers, it didn't work out. When did it not work out? What are some examples of that?
Usually it didn't work out when I felt it afterwards. I got a feeling like what's going to work and what's not going to work. And the feeling came from how you talk to the person. Okay. In the DMs. If the conversation is like, I don't know, warm and they are into your products and they want to do something with you, usually that's going to be the case when it works. Okay. When it was very business-like, yes, send me, that's the address, okay, and that's all. Usually these are the ones that did not work very well because the influencers did not put their heart into making the content.
Right.
They just did it because they got something for free.
Yep.
And probably the audience feels that. And what I'm seeing on Instagram lately is that honesty is trending, actually. So even large brands that produce very high quality content, that could produce very high quality content with expensive photo shoots, they're opting in for, I don't know, pictures taken with phones, selfies and something like that. And I think because people are starting to get a bit tired of this influencer-ish pictures with a lot of filters, very, I don't know, polished images, polished videos.
Okay, so when it comes to choosing a good influencer, do you look at high follow rate or do you look at high engagement? How do you go about determining if they're a good one to work with? Okay,
so follow rate kind of could indicate the reach you're gonna get.
Yeah.
So expect anywhere from, like, if someone has 10,000 followers, they could have from, I don't know, a few thousand to even more than 10,000 reach per post.
Right, okay.
But it differs between a niche and between a follower, so that's something you're gonna have to ask for a screenshot from the influencer.
Okay, sure.
But everyone's very concerned about engagement rate, and that's a good thing, and you should be too. There is actually a very good tool to check the engagement rate, which we're probably going to link, yeah?
Yep, we'll put that into the description below as well.
So yeah, that's an easy way to just put in the name and check the engagement rate.
Yeah.
And usually what I opted in for, so the Instagrammers that have 5 to 20,000 followers, they usually have a high engagement rate, which could be over 10% even. So, but that's not the only thing you should be looking at. You should, before starting to work with an influencer, open up at least one post and go through the comments.
Okay.
And there's a big difference on one type of engagement and the other. So sometimes the engagement is comments like, cool, good, nice, good picture.
Yeah.
And sometimes the engagement is like these detailed questions, and people are starting to talk in the comments, and there's a discussion, maybe even less people commenting, but the engagement is like of better quality.
Sure.
And you should also check who's liking the pictures. You can do it manually, or you can do it with the Deep Social tool I mentioned.
Okay.
And just to see what type of people are being reached with the posts. Maybe they're doing very well with hashtags, for example, and they're reaching like kind of pretty random audiences with every post.
Right.
Or maybe they have consistent likes from like similar people. Just open up the people's profiles and just do a very quick manual check.
Okay.
To get the feel. You're gonna know which profile is good.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Are you kind of looking for fake followers as well? Is that an issue?
That might be an issue, yeah. If you open up, it sometimes occurred to me so I looked at an image and the likes for that image, and I saw a lot of people with a lot of numbers in their names, no profile pictures, and that's a big red flag for the influencer, because as you mentioned, like buying followers, there's also a thing of buying likes, and some people actually subscribe to likes, so they get like 2,000 likes per picture no matter what they post. And you have to be careful about this. And
so explain to me as well, what is the issue of choosing an influencer that doesn't have that like real following as well? What would happen?
You just get like very small scale results. I've seen pages, I've seen, like I mentioned, clients that I now have with Instagram that have like over 10,000 followers, and they post a story and it gets 50 views.
Yeah.
So that's an indicator that something was not done well in the past. And if, for example, the influencer does not provide you with screenshots of statistics, that's also kind of a red flag to check. Maybe something's wrong, maybe he's hiding something.
So when it comes to kind of finding influencers and negotiating contracts and anything like that, did you use any platforms for it or any tools?
At first, no, and you could go about without it. So it's not that hard actually to look for them. A very easy way is to find an influencer and see what an influencer that's very good for your niche, and see what they're following, because they're going to usually follow not that many people as they have followers. They're going to follow a few hundred maybe, and it's easy to go through, and sometimes you even see that some are brands, and when there's just a person, you open up the profile and a lot of times they're also kind of micro influencers in the same kind of niche.
Yeah.
But if you want to be methodical about it, there's a very good tool which is called Deep Social.
Okay.
So you kind of buy tokens, and you can use them to find influencers based on a lot of criteria. For example, you can find influencers that have a specific type of audience who and the audience likes, for example, arts or sports.
Yep.
So you could use that thing. Yeah.
Okay, that's a really good tip actually. So after the end of it, once you've finished working with them and they've posted your content and everything and it's all been really nice, how do you actually determine whether it worked for you?
Okay, so for small scale merchants, it's probably the only thing you're going to be doing.
Yeah.
So you know that if the traffic's coming, it's coming from only one influencer or one channel if it's Instagram. What you usually do is, if you're doing some kind of a promo, you give the influencer, for example, an affiliate link or a promo code that's specific to them. So you can probably not track all the visits from what he posted, but you can track the sales.
Okay.
So you know which promo codes worked best, and you tie them to the influencer.
Yep.
And you see which one's the best performer. You can track actually traffic, and there's a method for that. So you build an UTM link, which you can do with a Google tool, and then you shorten the link with bit.ly or a tiny URL, and make a nice nice link for it and provide that link with the influencer, and so you can track the traffic.
So when it comes to working with influencers, is there any way that you can kind of get a hold of their analytics to tell if it's working, either in their posts or in their stories?
Okay, so you have two options. You can either ask for their login credentials, which you're not going to get usually, so you can see it for yourself. And usually what people ask for is just screenshots of how well the content did.
Right, okay. So that's what you were doing in yours?
Yeah, you just ask for screenshots, and like most of the reach has already happened in 12 to 16 hours. So even if it's a story post, they post it and the next day they give you the statistics with a screenshot, and that's usually sufficient. So it's a lot of manual work to track this, but that's how you got to do it.
When it comes to using your Instagram analytics, did you use it very often?
There's the thing, when I started the business profile was not that old, not that established. So, and what I read online is that when you switch to business profile, it kind of a little bit affects the reach and the engagement.
Right.
So I was very slow to adapt it to a business profile. And when you have a personal profile, you don't have the analytics.
Sure.
But you should. I'm not sure if everyone needs the analytics, actually. I was doing pretty fine without them for most of the time, so.
Did you end up switching to a business profile, and did you notice any change in your reach?
That was actually just before the sale, and so I didn't act on that information because I just sold it.
Yeah, sure. So when it comes to Instagram analytics and businesses using it to kind of determine what is working and what isn't working, what are the most important things to look at in your analytics?
So I think the most fun part is that you can see your audience, like the demographics of your audience.
Yeah.
And sometimes you could be surprised, like you thought you are doing content and communicating with one type of audience, and when you look at the analytics, it's a totally different audience.
Interesting.
Yeah, so just take notes of that and maybe switch up your content and see what works. And how to do that, apart from just checking the engagement, is the reach of every single post. So that's how you can validate the content. For example, you do 3 types of posts.
Yeah.
One is with your product, one is a good picture of someone else with your product, and an image, I don't know, you took from Shutterstock or something like that. And you can see by the reach of that image how well it has performed, and maybe draw some conclusions.
So do you think reach is more important than likes and comments?
It really depends on what your goal is. For example, my goal was engagement.
Yep.
Because I knew that if there is a community there, it's going to be easier to sell at some point in the future when I build up the community. But if you want awareness, if you want reach, which is a very logical thing to want in the beginning,
yep,
that's what you should be aiming for until you grow to a significant amount, probably.
Okay, so Instagram shopping is a thing that's come out just quite recently as well.
Exactly.
What do you think about it? Do you think it's useful for e-commerce owners?
It is very useful because it's kind of like a shop inside your Instagram. If you tag enough pictures with products, a button called shop appears on your profile.
Okay.
And so you can direct people to go through that button, which opens up all the posts that have products tagged. But I'm not sure yet if it works well. Like I've been seeing other brands that started tagging products, big brands, and they stopped doing that after some time. So I think it still needs some testing to do, and everyone should try their own thing.
Okay, do you think maybe users aren't used to it yet or something?
Maybe, yeah. Maybe, I don't know, maybe the reach is falling when you tag products. Maybe something like that is going on.
Yeah.
But it's been kind of a recent thing in most countries, so there's not enough data and A/B tests to prove it.
Thinking about the future of Instagram, what are the features or the elements of it that you think are going to be the most important for the rest of this year and maybe into next year?
So I think you should be trying to use as many new features as you can. Instagram has repeatedly kind of said that they don't promote posts or stories that use new features,
right,
but people interact with them in a very kind of like exploratory way. For example, when the shoppable posts appeared for a lot of countries, on the first days when I tagged the products on the stores, like a lot of people clicked. Yeah. Because no one's accustomed to this kind of thing, and they're just interested, like what's happening. So whenever a new thing comes out, doesn't matter if it's a like voting tool on stories or a filter, and 3D types of painting filters are coming sometime this year. Just try the new things and try your old tactics with the new tools, and that's usually working.
Yeah, that's kind of the fun of social media, is that it's always new and it's fun to interact with.
Yeah, there's always something new coming up, and you can just, well, since you're doing it for yourself, not a client, you don't have to get approval, so just go wild.
If you could distill all of your huge Instagram knowledge into one single tip for new entrepreneurs, what would it be?
Make it fun.
Yep.
It's maybe I don't know, unusual tip, but whenever it's fun for you, you get very into it. So it was a big, it was my leisure activity. I was doing Instagram marketing at weekends and in the evening, every time I could, like I mentioned, like walking the dog and stuff. So it's just because I liked it. And now I have some things I have to do, which I don't like that much, and I keep stalling. The ones that you love, you're gonna spend a lot of time doing, a lot of time researching. So yeah, find a tactic, maybe even not a social media that you like, and just go all in.
Yep, that's great advice. Thanks very much for being here with me today, Carolus. That was great.
Thanks for inviting me.
There was so much great advice and tips in there from Carolus, but now I want to hear from you guys. What is the one tip that you learned today that you're going to use into your store? Leave it in a comment for me below, and don't forget to subscribe as well and turn on the notification bell. We'll have lots more great videos coming up. Until next time, happy dropshipping.